What was little Mindy like? Like, what were you? How would your parents and family have described you as the elementary school Mindy?
I don't know. I was always kind of adventurous. I was always the one that, would come up with a wild idea, like we should put on our swimming suits during the height of the runoff season for the river and go jump in. Mm-hmm. Not a good idea. We got grounded for that.
Yeah.
Just because it's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Hands up, heads down, shake it on, turn around. We're kicking down, we're gaining ground. We do it right, do the here right now.
Mindy Rogers, welcome to Super TRUEper.
Thanks, Scott Smith. It's good to be here.
And you brought your mini-me.
Of course.
For those of you at home, for those of you not watching, the 2022 True Network Strategic Partner of the Year, and we did a bobblehead, is it Mini-Me? Is that what you call it, Mini-Me?
Mini-Men.
Mini-Men, that's right, Mini-Men. What's your full name? Is Mindy your first name?
It's Melinda.
Melinda?
Yes.
I would not have guessed that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mindy is usually Amanda? No,
I think that Melinda and Mindy usually go together, but not all Melindas are Mindys and not all Mindys are Melindas.
Right.
So.
When did Mindy start?
From the very start.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your middle name?
Ray, and it's spelled R-H-A-E. I don't know why.
R-H-A-E.
A-E.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Were your parents hippies of any sort?
Not really hippies. I mean, they were ski bums. So,
that tracks then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, I was named after someone that they went up skiing with. So
that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, because I forget to do this, you are a strategic partner of True through Legal Shield, ID Shield. What's the company name now? Is that right?
Yeah. Just Legal Shield is good. Yeah.
Okay, Legal Shield is good.
We also say ID Shield too, just so that people know that we offer more than one service.
Can I say that this is going to be a wide-ranging conversation, first of all, because our lives have intersected a lot over the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. But I never would have imagined that a legal and ID service would have been so popular and had so much success within the network. And it's all because of you. So maybe we start here. Well, I'm not going to start here.
Oh, okay.
Do you know where I'm going to start?
No, I
We're
don't
go
know
way
where
back.
you're going to start. Okay, back.
Where were you born?
Denver, Colorado.
So you're born in Denver? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. Denver General Hospital. Mm-hmm.
And then your formative years, were you in Denver?
For maybe my first year and a half, and then we moved up to a little town in the mountains called Georgetown.
Which is where you live now?
Mm-hmm.
Georgetown, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Population, how much?
About 1,000 people. Pretty small.
That is pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, so because of Val, also Miss Hot Dog, my wife, I know a little bit about Colorado mountain towns, but I never would have really been able to describe it if I would have not seen them. Can you describe Georgetown, Colorado?
Well, I mean, it's definitely very small. So if you blink, you'll miss it when you're going up I-70. It's about 2 miles long. It's about 3/4 of a mile wide. We have a lake on one side and totally surrounded by mountains. During the winter, we don't get very much sunlight just because the valley is so small.
Oh.
And so it takes a little while for the sun to hit our street. And it's really windy during the winter. So we do get snow, but we almost never need a shovel because it just all blows away.
Right. Britt, can you pop that back up? We were going to look at that. So that big picture on the right, that's your town?
Yeah, that's my little town. And that's from the mountain right there is called Guanilla Pass. So it's looking down off of Guanilla Pass into our little town. And so you see the lake in the distance there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
You can't see our house in this picture because it's closer to the lake, but the house that I grew up in is actually pretty close to this mountain here, just in the corner on the right side.
It looks adorable.
It is. It really is. Yeah, it's a very cute place.
So I think I went through it one time or stopped in the exit. I can't remember. Val says we have, because we were near Idaho Springs one time, which is close, like 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah. So Idaho Springs is where I went to high school.
Now, what does one do? Is the town based around recreation and mountain tourists, or?
Yeah, tourism is our main industry, but we do have a mine that's still active in that area. That's molybdenum.
Excuse me? What'd you call me?
Yeah.
Molybdenum?
So I guess it's a hardening agent for other metals. So it's used with a lot of like cars and things like that. I don't know exactly, but it's always been a pretty big industry in our area in addition to tourism. So
you grew up there from like
little. So little baby Mindy.
And then we're just away during school and then moved back?
Yep. So moved back. So it was away for a while. So I went to school in Seattle, met Mike.
We'll get to that.
We moved to Denver, moved overseas, moved back to Denver, and then moved our family up to Georgetown to raise the boys there.
Right. Husband Mike, also a strategic partner, former True Network team member employee. We're going to get to all those things. So what is life like growing up as a kid? I'm talking about like, I guess our earliest memories that are meaningful are like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Like, what's life like growing up in a small Colorado town?
It was really fun, actually. I really enjoyed it as a small child just because we could ride our bikes anywhere. It was a very safe place to be. Spent a lot of time at other people's houses. My parents owned a restaurant in town, and so during the day, we would just pop in and out of the restaurant, get some food, check in, before cell phones when we actually had to check in to let them know that we were still okay. We had a playhouse in our backyard that my grandfather built. He was a house builder. And so that was a popular place for all the kids to hang out as well, was in the playhouse. It had electricity and was, kind of a fun place to be, had a little heater in the winter. So yeah, Georgetown was a great place as a young kid. We would climb up and down the mountains, get in a little trouble, but not too much.
What was little Mindy like? Like, what were you, how would your parents and family have described you as the elementary school Mindy?
Well, I was a little sister, so I was a little bit of a brat, I think, according to my sister.
How many?
Just one sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Older sister.
Yep. Just one older sister. Her name's Heather. Yep. So, like to hang around with her friends, and they didn't like that very much. I don't know. I was always kind of adventurous. I was always the one that, would come up with a wild idea, like we should put on our swimming suits during the height of the runoff season for the river and go jump in. Not a good idea. We got grounded for that.
Yeah.
Just because it's very dangerous. I was always the one that wanted to go climb the mountain or build a fort or, make little crafts. Some of my best friends growing up, their mother hated when I came over because we would always take all the sheets off the bed and make forts out of the sheets. And so she started designating tablecloths that we could do that with instead because she hated having to remake all the beds after we left.
I'm coming up with this picture of this really idealistic little family in a small Colorado mountain town. And then when you said your parents owned a restaurant growing up, like, so a small town.
Yeah.
This had to be like one of only a handful of restaurants. And what kind of restaurant was it?
Like a greasy spoon, just like breakfast and lunch. My dad always knew all the locals, and most of them would come in for breakfast, read the paper, drink some coffee. He knew what they were going to order before they even came through the door. For lunch, it was mostly tourists. And so we catered a lot to the tourists, like hamburgers and fries and sandwiches and things like that. We have a little mining train in our town that the tourists like to ride on. And so, people would take sandwiches onto the train. And so they would come and order at our restaurant first.
I have so many questions. So how old were you when they opened the restaurant?
So I was 1.5 years when they bought the restaurant.
Oh, so.
So yeah, really little.
Yeah. And then did they have it your whole life? Do they still have it?
So they sold it just after I went to college, but it was really the place that I grew up in. So we grew up playing in the restaurant. There was a little office that we drew all over the walls. My dad would hide behind one of the walls, and there was like a little hole in the wall that he would pass us messages, and we thought that it was a ghost that was passing us messages. So we were convinced that the restaurant was haunted.
So these are going to be random questions.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite thing to eat at the restaurant growing up? Were there's special things just for you that weren't on the menu?
So for breakfast, I love the cinnamon rolls. Yeah, my dad made amazing cinnamon rolls. For lunch, I liked just having a hamburger. Just it was called a
Who doesn't like a good hamburger?
Plain old burger, just only pickles on it.
Right.
Nothing fancy. My dad had really great fresh cut fries, so sometimes I would eat those. But pretty much I stuck with cinnamon rolls and hamburgers.
And what was the name of this restaurant?
It was called the Pretzel Coffee House. And it's because the former owner, his name was John Pretz. And so my parents just kept the name. But the funny thing is they never sold pretzels there at all.
The pretzel, is it still there? Did somebody buy it?
Somebody bought it off my dad,
Okay.
and they kind of kept it as a breakfast and lunch type of place, but really couldn't keep it going. It's changed ownership quite a few times, was newly remodeled just recently, and it's a pretty fancy restaurant called 511 Rose now.
Oh. So I would imagine, so your parents owned and they both worked there? From the time you were 1 until the time you were 19 or so. You know, I did know a little bit about the restaurant business. That is you're kind of married to the business.
It's a killer business. It really is. Yeah.
What was that like? I guess what was it like for you watching them work every day, all the time? And maybe how did it help shape you?
Yeah. Definitely work ethic wise. I saw that in them. I saw how hard they worked every day. I saw how hard it was to make money in a little restaurant in a small town, especially in the winter. Not as many people will stop by our town in the winter. In the summer, people like to walk around, look at the shops, things like that. So during the winter, my parents wouldn't employ anybody. And so it was just the two of them that would run the restaurant. Sometimes just one of them would cook and wait and all of that so the other could have a day off of work. So it was just, it was definitely a very tough business to have. It's hard to make money in a food industry.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody just breaks a plate or two, then, it's kind of a loss for the day. I don't think many people realize that.
What, did you and your sister work there? Just
Yep. So
cashier, serving tables. Were you cooking?
never cooked.
Okay.
Was afraid of the grill and the fryer. Like we were always told to stay away from it. There was a big meat slicer. We always were told to stay away from that, especially as, little kids running around. But the summer that I turned 10, I told my parents I wanted to get a new bicycle. I wanted a 10-speed bicycle. And my dad looked at me and he said, I think you're old enough to work.
You're double digits.
I know,
course.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they opened me a bank account down the street at the local bank. And, and they just said, okay, you'll just start working. And it was, very much kind of cash pay under the table, however much my parents thought that we earned for the day. My sister and I would switch off days working so that we didn't, work our whole summer as children, but started that young age. And then by the time I was 12, I started waiting tables. And then pay was better because we got tips.
At the ripe old age of 12.
Yes, at the ripe old age of 12.
I think there are laws prohibiting this now.
There aren't if you're a family member.
Oh, really?
So child labor laws don't apply to family members, and I think it's because of like farming industry and things like that.
Britta, were you aware of this?
I was not aware of that.
Britta has 5 kids.
I know, yeah.
Listen, we're going to talk later.
Yeah. Yep.
We're about to put the Burns family to work.
Mac is going to start editing.
Yeah. We're going to have a whole bunch of roadies for the band. Okay.
Yep. So we were never officially on payroll. You didn't have to be if you're a family member. So
That's so funny. By the way, Britt Burns is our creative director we're talking to, if you're checking us out for the first time. It almost seems romantic, too, like as a high schooler, to have friends, and you're like, let's just go buy the pretzel.
Yeah, so it wasn't open at night, and so I had a key though. And there was a malt maker or whatever. So one of those like that would spin. You would put the steel glass on it or whatever.
For milkshakes?
Yep. And so we would go in at night and we would make shakes.
With permission or without permission?
With permission. As long as we always cleaned up. My dad didn't mind. If it was the winter and we were sledding late at night, we would go in and make hot chocolate and just enjoy that. But yeah, couldn't ever make a mess or else wouldn't be allowed back.
Well, you seem like a rule follower anyway.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly?
Yeah. I wasn't too bad of a kid.
So you're in high school now. Is high school, Mindy, any different than young Mindy, the adventurous side? What's the high school you like? Those, I only have one daughter, but it seems to me like that 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 are the most challenging time for young women.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
Sure. So when I was about 12, I really discovered that I loved running. Started running track and just discovered that I was good at it. And so by the time that I was in high school, I was actually very good for my age. And my sister had been running track and cross country for a couple of years. And so I came out as a freshman. She was a junior and was already, beating everybody on the team, and kind of made my sister a little upset about it. But it also lit a fire under her too. And so we ended up becoming very competitive with each other. And so that made her better too. We actually ended up my sophomore year, runner up in state, and my senior year, we were state champions.
And she's how old? How much older?
2 years.
2 years. Do you look like sisters? I've never seen a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
People get us confused. Like, people would call us twins, especially in high school.
Can we Google her?
Yeah.
Heather, what's her last name?
It's Quarantillo. I don't know if you can spell that,
boy.
Brett. But you could probably Google Gilbert sisters running.
Oh.
And you might find some news articles like
What makes
Rocky Mountain News or Denver Post.
What I love that is that with the confidence. Well, you could probably just Google the Gilbert sisters, legends.
I don't know what's out there. I haven't Googled myself, so.
Yeah, Gilbert sisters,
Heather
Colorado
and Mindy Gilbert.
running legends, Heather and Mindy Gilbert. So see if we can get something there. Britapotamus. So running in a Colorado mountain town, is that like mostly you just start running around in the hills and stuff? Like, what do you running around a track, or are you doing cross country? What are you doing?
So we had a coach, and he really loved getting us up on different trails and things like that. So we would, drive further up the mountain. He would have hiking trails for us to run on. Always had like a planned workout for us. And it just really made me love it, just because you're outdoors, you're working hard. You run straight up the mountain and then you run down really fast and try not to fall. And it was a really great way to get a good workout in. Where we live is 8,500 feet to sea level. So way up there. And so, even that is higher than Denver. And so when we would compete against teams in Denver, we would usually dominate just because we kind of had that high altitude advantage, and we were probably tougher than the rest of them since we ran up mountains.
We were talking about this earlier, and I talk about it with Val because when she's cooking, she's always adjusting her baking and such for altitude. And I'm like, how is this even a thing? Just because you're up higher, you have to use more salt, less flour, all these kind of things. It's amazing how much the altitude, like you were saying, like when you bake cakes, there's always like a little dip in the cake.
Yeah, so you have to put extra flour in. I'm not sure the science behind it in terms of baking. I don't know if it's because there's less oxygen or what it is, but I mean, water boils a lot slower the higher elevation you're at. Our bodies even change, so you get more red blood cells if you live at higher elevation.
So I was reading something about this recently, or listening about you age faster or slower at elevation. One of the two.
I hope it's not faster.
It was one of the two.
It might feel
I think it's faster.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
I really think they took some people and were doing some studies. By the way, I could totally be making this up, but not fully. There's some truth in here.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
That there's something about the way the Earth rotates and time passing, that at higher elevation, you age faster. I don't know if you can Google this, Brett, but that's like a...
I think you're trying to get me to move to Gunnersville.
Oh, well,
I think that's what you're trying to do.
We're trying to get
right
everybody
now.
to move here. We're building a commune. All right. So you went to college to run, right?
Yeah.
Did your sister do that too?
Yeah, she did actually. Yeah. So she was recruited to Adams State College, which was in Colorado. She ran her first 2 years there. Adams State was always the NCAA Division II champions. So she ran on their team. She was excellent. And then she transferred to Portland State when I went up to Seattle Pacific. And so we both ended up in the Northwest, and then we got to run against each other again, which was pretty neat.
Who was better?
I was better in high school, but we were actually really close her senior year, my sophomore year. And then, in college, she probably ran about a minute faster than me for the 5K. But by the time that we were competing back with each other again, we were pretty close again.
Wow.
So yeah.
What is this?
So that's Jordan is the second from the left there. As a little guy, James is fully on the right, and then that's my cousin Robin, and then and then and then my nephew Joss. Yep.
Britt pulled up a picture. I don't know, what was it, like a Facebook picture or something?
It must have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good try, Britt.
Yeah. You got my cousin. She probably looks a lot like me.
So, when you went, were you thinking about going to other schools rather than Seattle Pacific?
I was, but mostly Northwest. I actually met a guy up there, and so wanted to go to school in like Seattle or Tacoma or something like that.
What's that loser doing now?
It wasn't Mike though.
That's what I know. When you said a guy, I knew it couldn't have been. Could you have said Mike?
I have no idea what that loser's doing now.
Okay,
so,
all right.
Cut him out of the podcast because he'll probably know who he is if he hears it. No, I don't think he even follows me anymore. So
I think we're safe.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, there was another school up in the Pacific Northwest that was recruiting me also. And it ended up not working out that I went to that school. So I ended up going to Seattle Pacific instead and just really loved the coach there. So I was glad that I ended up there, ended up with some really great friends.
Did you run for like 4 years there?
So technically I ran for 5 years because I was prone to injury. So my freshman year, only ran like 2 races before I was injured. And so they redshirted me for that year. And then my sophomore year came back, ran stronger. Junior year was my best year. Went home for Christmas and slipped on some ice and basically hyperextended my knee and ended up having surgery on it. So really my junior year was my best year. And we were conference and division champions that year.
And what was your race of choice? Well, what did you run?
5K, 5,000 meters, which is 3.1 miles.
Right.
So I did that both for cross country and on the track.
What's your best time ever? What's your personal record, your PR?
18:45.
Oh, that's like 18 divided by, that's like 6 minutes a mile.
Exactly.
6 minute miles.
Yep. I could do that for 6 miles too. But.
Oh, that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. Not anymore. I'm not
going to hold you to it.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you run anymore? Do you still run?
Just a little bit. Yeah, just for fun. Don't run through the winter anymore. I'm always afraid of slipping on ice again and things like that. But yeah, I run to, stay in shape a little bit, de-stress, feel good about my body.
Right.
But I don't run competitively anymore.
What'd you major in? What were you studying while you were running around?
That's a good question. English, English Lit, and religious studies.
Gotcha.
Seattle Pacific was a free Methodist college. So it was a private Christian college.
Okay. I went to some Methodist churches growing up, and so I'm not sure. I was racking my brain for what exactly free Methodist meant.
I'm not sure. I'm not a Methodist.
I don't know.
All I knew in college was it meant that we couldn't have dances.
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah, like they were against dancing.
That's not free.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
That's the opposite of free.
Not free.
I have to go look at my Calvinism, figure out what free Methodist is.
The holiness movement.
Oh, free Methodist, it was in the holiness movement. That makes sense because we have holiness around here, around Guntersville, Alabama.
Are they allowed to dance?
It doesn't look like it. They all also wear very specific clothing.
Oh.
It's almost Quakerish or, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it Quaker? Mennonite, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very much along the same lines there. Now, I can't profess if they dance or not, but it would not surprise me if there was no dancing. You know what there is? There's roller skating. Because they wear these long skirts and they go to the local walking trail, and many of them are on roller skates.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's like a hack. That's like a cheat because you can.
Yeah, you can't dance, but you can.
You can kind of groove
skate.
on some roller skates, though.
Like move along that way.
Put on some Michael Jackson Rock with you.
Yeah. Yep.
By the way, that was my roller rink. That's the song that makes me think of the carousel. It was a carousel skate up on Albertville.
Mega skate?
It was yeah. I'm sorry. There's a little time between Britt and I. I think it was called Carousel Skate Center. And if Michael Jackson Rock With You comes on to this day, I kind of want to get into my little,
All
yeah,
night.
I want to get in my little skating thing. Is there a song, Britt, that you think of when you think of skating?
When I think of skating,
Yeah.
Roller skating.
Did you roller skate?
Just like skate rinks and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, I'm just looking for songs. If there's a song that's like, ooh, this takes me back to the roller rink. Either of you.
it'd be like AC/DC or something. They would play it.
Oh. Yeah.
Sticking all night long or something like that.
I was always very jealous of the really good skaters. Like I was okay, but I wasn't doing tricks. Of course, I wasn't putting the time in. It's the first time we've really gotten derailed.
Yeah, that's okay. We had an unfinished basement in my house growing up, and we would skate in the basement.
Oh, nice. That doesn't sound like it'd be good for you, Miss Injury-prone person. Okay, so we're in college.
Yeah.
We get an English and Religious Studies degree.
Yeah.
We're not doing any dancing, but a lot of running.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was a very serious runner. And so, I would go to bed at 9 at night, would be up at 5 a.m, would go swim because we were actually supposed to run twice a day. But since I was injury prone, I couldn't run twice a day. So I'd go swim in the morning and go to classes and then work out in the afternoon with my team and study and then go to bed.
What created such a disciplined person? I mean, I'm being tried about it, but I'm curious if you reflect on it.
I don't know. I'm a pretty competitive person. And so I think that, that kind of self perpetuates, just wanting to be the best, wanting to make sure that whatever I was doing, I was giving myself that extra edge. My coach was really big on that too. She would basically ask us each day, what's one thing that you could do today to make yourself a better runner? And she's like, and it's not always run harder or run faster or train more. Sometimes it's get a little extra sleep. Sometimes it's eat better. Sometimes it's, being kind to yourself. And so, just kind of, that was ingrained in me.
Now she was some sort of is famous too strong a word, but well known.
Yeah. I mean, well known within the running community.
What's her name?
Doris Heritage.
Doris Heritage. Britt, could you bring up one? Doris Heritage. Is she still alive?
Yeah, she is. She's 82 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
and she's still in amazing shape too.
Oh, so she sounds pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Yep. So she was world cross country champion in the 70s 5 times.
Oh.
Yeah. So she went to the Olympics twice. She actually started running at a time that women weren't supposed to run. And so in high school, she wasn't allowed to run at all. When she went to college, she ran with the boys. And when she would be out, training and things like that, like people would yell at her, people would throw rocks at her. She was really a pioneer for women's running. At first they thought that women could not run very far. And so when she went to the Olympics twice, she only ran 800 meters, which she's much better at longer distances.
Right.
But they just kind of thought that women were weak and, their hearts were weak and they would probably give out if they ran more than a half mile. Or
what are we going to look back on now and think the same thing? I mean, because you have to realize really smart people probably believe that.
Yeah. She won the Pan Am Games and she was given a silver tea set. Like, how trite is that?
Get your priorities in order, woman.
Yeah. Yep. Here you go. Here's your silver tea set. Like, go serve a man.
Was she you're at a pretty, you're at an age where you're easily influenced, maybe?
Yeah.
Did she have a big influence on you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. She and her husband would always have the team over all the time. They were very generous, giving people. But there were a lot of Doris-isms that stuck with all of us. I was telling you at lunch, I still think, anytime I eat different types of food, I still think of her because she would tell us, nutritionally what to do, what not to do. And so even being at a salad bar, you would think, okay, salad bar is healthy. But she would say, don't choose the lettuce. Choose the spinach because the spinach actually has vitamins and minerals. Lettuce is just empty. If you're going to eat a baked potato, you have to eat the skin also because that's where the vitamins and minerals are. Or, don't put mayonnaise on something because it's just empty fat.
Or disgusting.
Yeah, or disgusting. I'm not partial to mayonnaise anyways.
Anti-mayonnaise person. So oftentimes when someone's that extreme, there's there's incredible power in the discipline and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes there's dark might be too much. Was there a negative side of?
Oh yeah. Yep. So, I mean, especially as a woman who's an athlete, and her being so focused on food, a lot of us on the team ended up with eating disorders or, just really pushing ourselves too hard. I think that was part of the reason that I got injured so frequently is you're just trying to, see what else your body can do. I would do full ice baths before that was, something that most people do now or anything like that, just so that I could, keep all the inflammation down in my body so that I could keep doing what I was doing.
Well, that sounds no fun.
It was fun, though. The crazy thing about it was...
That's because you're the kind of person
fun.
that would find joy in that. To us normal human beings without that much discipline and pain tolerance. Okay. Let me ask you a transition question.
Okay.
So you've been running competitively 5 years in college, also 5 years before college in school. Now you graduate.
Okay.
And you're not going to be running for a living. So now you've got to go find a job or a career, and you're not running competitively. So what was the state of Mindy like when you were winding down your running career and looking for a job? Like, what were your plans?
So something happened in between, though. So when I was still in college, so it was actually one of the years that I was injured. So, I had surgery on my knee and knew that I was going to have to sit out another season. And so I knew that we had an exchange student program. And so I applied for that, ended up going to Kenya to go to a school there that was called Daystar University. And so they had a group of Americans that would go each year. So there was only one other person from my school that I didn't even know ahead of time. I think there were about 15 of us that went to go to this school for a semester. And I ended up just really loving Kenya.
Was this because of the running background? Because so many Kenyans were
I don't know. I think I always had a fascination with Africa. I have no idea why.
Okay.
And so ended up going to school there. Just ended up loving the people, loving the culture. There was a home for kids that used to live on the streets close by to the university that I was at, and started volunteering there and just loving on those kids. And
you're how old at this point?
21.
Continues the theme of people on this podcast who are older than super young, who did crazy things at a young age.
Sure.
I can't you go back episode after episode, people were doing things at 19, 20, 21, 22, when a lot of our kids are, I say my kids and my peers' kids, are figuring out life.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine them like being mature enough to be in a different country.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a different time or what. I only called my parents twice while I was there, because, before cell phones,
right.
There was a phone in the dorm. There was 2 payphones on campus. That was it. And to, put money in a payphone to call the U.S.
Right.
That wasn't happening.
And you were there how long?
A semester. So 4 months probably.
Right. And this is there a city name? I don't know any Kenyan cities.
Yeah. So near Nairobi. Nairobi is a city. And so they actually had a campus in Nairobi, but we were actually out in the bush. We were near a town called Athi River, but not in the town.
Got it.
Yeah. So really picture African landscape, the trees that are flat on the top, the acacia trees and the savanna and everything. That's where we were at where our university was.
Wow.
So
and
pretty
15
cool place.
people from your school went to this place.
Yep. And so everybody else was African. So, a lot of Kenyans, but also Nigerians and Zimbabweans and, people from all over Africa would go to school there.
So this was in the time you were hurt.
Yep. So, I knew that I was going to miss another cross country season.
Right.
So decided to do that instead. And got to, start running again while I lived in Kenya, which was pretty neat.
Right.
Had a big dirt road that led into our university and would just run up and down it, and got some other friends to run with me too, so that I wasn't doing it alone.
So you're there for 4 months, which means you came back to go to school.
Yep.
And then you finished you had another track season? Kinda.
Yeah, I was kind of still like, I wasn't as fast because I
Right.
was still recovering. So I can't even remember if I competed. I probably competed a couple of times, just a couple of races, and then was getting my feet back underneath me by the next cross country season.
Now, one Michael Rogers has to be in around and around this time somehow.
He was. He
Okay,
was.
so I like this question. The first time
Okay.
you locked eyes
Okay.
with Mike Rogers, and we're like, oh, okay.
Do you already know this story?
I know part of it, but I
Okay.
don't know. I might
Okay.
know his story.
Uh-huh.
So you may have to tell me your version.
I mean, he has his version, which is not right.
Sure, but that's the way it always goes.
Yes, exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have to have him on Super Trooper sometime to, tell his version
Yeah.
of the story. But
Can I say something I know?
Yeah.
Let me see if I get this right.
Okay.
Spaghetti Warehouse?
Spaghetti Factory.
Spaghetti Factory.
Spaghetti Factory.
Is there something called the Spaghetti Warehouse?
I think there is.
I just
Yeah,
made that
I think
up.
So. Yeah, I think there's Spaghetti Warehouses
Okay.
also.
I just want to make sure my memory's still good. Okay. All right, now go.
Yep. So was working at the Spaghetti Factory as a server. When Mike Rogers was a busser there.
Right. You had a superior position.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously.
Yep.
Obviously. No, I was, you had to be 21 to be a server,
Okay.
and he was 20.
Got it.
So he's a year younger than me. But he went to a different university than I did. He went to University of Washington. So I didn't know him, anything like that. When we were working at this big spaghetti factory, it was in downtown Seattle. And so at night, they would lock the door, when all of us were cleaning, just to make sure that, no one came in, a homeless person didn't wander in, something like that. And so they would have to unlock the door to let us out into the parking lot, kind of into groups, just to make sure everybody was safe. And so they had the door locked one night. We were all done with cleaning, and we were hanging out in the lobby, just talking, just a group of us. And I was talking to Mike, don't even remember the conversation and all. That's why I say he has a different version of the story.
Right.
And so when they went to unlock the door, I just shook his hand and I just basically said, it was nice to meet you. And he said that my hand lingered in his.
Oh, yeah. I have heard that.
The lingering.
Yes.
Of the hand. I don't remember this conversation at all.
Right.
So I guess he decided out of that he liked me. And he wanted to be the busser in the section that I was at as the server. And so he was waiting on the schedule to be able to be the busser in my
Right.
section. So one night, magically that happened for him. Still, I had no idea that he even liked me. And that night he also he was the lead busser. So he actually had to restock plates and things like that in other sections. He was terrible. And yeah, all night long I'm going, where's my busser? Nobody has water. My tables aren't getting bussed. And at this spaghetti factory, in order to make money, you actually had to turn over your tables pretty quickly because, it's a 3-course meal, but it's $10 a head.
Right.
And so you would need to turn over your tables 3 or 4 times during the night to
Right.
make enough tips and everything. And so I was pretty mad at him. And so
I picture Mindy going up to tables and be like, are you finished with that? Yes, thank you. Like you just aggressively making people get out of there.
Yep. So now you know that I'm competitive too.
Right.
So I'm okay,
Yeah.
I'm here to make money. I'm a broke college student. And so he comes to me at the end of the night and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I know that I was a bad busser. You can tip me poorly if you want to, as long as you let me take you out sometime. And I was like, oh, okay, well, or actually, no, it didn't quite go that way. I think I got it wrong. So he told me that I could tip him poorly. And I was like, okay, well, it's $10, enough. And that's really bad tipping out.
Okay.
And so he took it and he said, okay, well, I'll take this as long as you let me take you out sometime. That's
Got
what
it.
he said. And so,
And you said yes?
and I said, okay, I was open to it. But the funny thing was I saw him several times after that, and it was almost like he was avoiding me.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very strange. And so I guess that he was embarrassed after that he even said that. And so I was thinking about moving back to Colorado for the summer. So the school year ended. And so I just came to him and I just basically said, I think I'm, going to move back to Colorado for the summer. So if you're going to take me out sometime, we should probably do that before I move.
Oh.
And so inside he was going, yes,
Oh.
because he wasn't ever going to follow up on it. So
Man, I'm going to have to talk with Michael.
I know.
Like
Confidence,
he
right?
got the yes and still waited. God, I guess as a 20-year-old, who knows what we're thinking at that age. He also thought your hand lingered, so
Mixed signals all over the place.
That's right. He was like, "This girl's crazy." So he said yes. What was the first date?
We went to the zoo in Seattle.
Okay.
Walked all around, talked, got to know each other. Decided to go out to dinner after that. We went to a Mongolian grill where they cook all your food in front of it. Yep. And then we went for a long walk after that. So we just kind of kept extending the date to the point that we ended up back at my house. Nothing happened first night.
You don't have to disclaimer that. I love the disclaimer, by the way.
I think we just didn't.
Nothing happened.
I think we.
By the way, she was winking at me. You couldn't see that.
Didn't want the night to end, and so it just kept going on.
And on and on. And
yeah. Like, I don't remember if he actually slept there. I think he probably went home at like really early in the morning. I don't remember what happened there, but
I was really funny right there, by the way. The on and on part was funny. I know Britt caught it. So it really was like first date magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you start like really seeing each other all the time right after that?
So this is where our stories also differ.
Oh, okay.
Because I decided that I really liked him.
Okay.
But I guess after that first date, he went on a date with another girl.
I think I've heard this too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I didn't know that happened in the meantime.
Playa. Mike.
We were supposed to meet back together for 4th of July to watch the fireworks together. And
Right.
so, it was before cell phones. He had a pager. So he was one of those people with a pager.
There's a picture being painted in my mind. He's got a second date and a pager. He's selling weed out of his Honda.
So anyway, I called and left a message on his pager to tell him where I was going to be at with my friends for the fireworks. And he couldn't find me that night. And so he thought that I ditched him. In fact, he thought that he saw me maybe at one time and that I like went under a blanket with another guy or something.
Wow, this is getting deep.
I know. So I mean, we almost like, totally missed each other. And so we didn't see each other for the fireworks, but then we started seeing each other a little bit more regularly after that. So,
And then that's where the fireworks started.
yeah, and that's where the real fireworks started, right?
So he's a year younger or 6 months younger, something like that?
Yep. But I did 5 years of school because I had that extra running year.
Right.
And so we were seniors at the same time. So
Gotcha. So now you're dating. Well, I'm going to skip. So you missed each other. You're back. Now you're dating. Where are you both living in the same city?
yeah, so he lived over by the University of Washington, and I needed a place to live for my last year at college. So he knew some girls that also needed, one more housemate. And so I moved a couple blocks away from him. So we got to see each other a lot our senior year.
Because I'm trying to recall a conversation we had, and it seems like he moved back home or something.
He couch surfed a little bit during college.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
But that was before I knew him.
Okay. So you're like 21, 22 when you really started dating for reals? Gotcha.
Yep. 2021.
Okay. And what year is this?
This would be like 1998.
1998. Okay.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Just I like to place things in context of where I was. I don't know why that's fun, but you're like, I was in Atlanta. We're probably pregnant with Madeline
Oh, okay.
because she was born in 99. Yeah.
We got married in 99. So just shortly after.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
So that seemed like you got married pretty fast.
Yeah. So he proposed to me 6 months into us dating.
Okay.
So senior year, we were either going to part ways or
Right.
we were going to get married. So that's, I guess, what happened.
It's just,
yeah.
that's so often what happens. And I really think it's like, well, it bears out that it's 50-50 at that point. Do you know the divorce rate's like 54% now? The real divorce rate, I think, of marriages that started after a certain date. That's just the ones that like get divorced. I think we all know there's probably a 15% unhappy rate among marriages. That's pretty sad. If you think 54% end, another 15% are unhappy, that might be conservative. Whew, man. I don't know where we're talking about. You guys have done really well to get married so young.
Yeah. And this summer
You were babies.
Yeah. This summer it'll be 25 years.
You've really grown up together. Really. I mean, from 21 to 46 or 47, whatever.
Yep.
All right, I want to cover to make sure I want to make sure we have time to cover things.
Okay.
So I'm going to take your word competitiveness,
Oh.
right?
Okay.
And I'll just start with we're actually going to work backwards now.
Okay.
Okay, what is your role with Legal Shield right now?
So basically I'm a carrier representative.
Okay.
And so with Legal Shield, in business solutions, which is the division I work in, we can either work directly with companies to offer employee benefits, or we can work through brokers. And so I do a little bit of both, but probably 90% of my business now is through brokers.
Right.
And so that's why True is so wonderful.
Right. Well, you're in sales.
Yeah.
So, how are you competitive in sales? Are you still competitive in the sales process? Because there's other reps around the country, and you have trips and you win them all the time.
Yeah.
Does that drive you?
It does. The neat thing is, we all say that there's always room at the top. And really in our company, even though we're competing against each other, like we're all cheering each other on too. And so we have leaderboards and things like that, but I'm always like, calling my friends and saying, oh my gosh, congratulations, you're doing so well. And so there's a competitiveness with it, just in the fact that, we have leaderboards and we have trips and we have different incentives and things like that. So that appeals to me. But at the same time, I think it's also kind of we talk about all ships rise with the tide. And so, there's plenty of room for a lot of growth with everyone.
Well, that's your natural goodness coming out. That's the best kind of competitiveness, when you're like, I do want to beat you. I hope you do, but I hope you have your best year ever too.
Yeah. And maybe it's also, even though things like cross country and track, a lot of people think those are individual sports, but they're very much team sports too.
Yeah. Well, not everybody thinks that way. I know you're saying that like that's just the way it works. That's some of your goodness coming out. How did you get into this job? What were you doing before Legal Shield?
So for 10 years, I worked for a nonprofit. And then, and Mike actually worked for that nonprofit too. So we even worked together.
Wow.
Yeah. Back then, but we had different roles.
You guys better like each other all this time together.
Yeah, we do like each other. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah, we like working together, definitely. And he kind of made a job change. He actually decided that he wanted to be a firefighter, and had to go through all the testing for it and everything. So there were about like 500 people that went through testing to be a West Metro firefighter, and I think he ended up ranked number 7. They were hiring 15 people.
Right.
And so he went off to the fire academy. And when he did that, that's when we decided that we would move up to Georgetown, move our children up there to raise them. And unfortunately, the fire academy didn't last for him. And I think that they like to get rid of a couple people during academy to kind of prove to the rest of the recruits of you need to take this seriously.
Right.
And so he had one day that he had like tendonitis in both arms, and they were making him, unscrew the fire hydrants and screw him back on continually, even though they knew that he was hurt. And so I think they just were looking for somebody to let go. And so when he got let go, a friend of ours that worked at the nonprofit with us said that he was working with Legal Shield. And so just basically told Mike that it was something that he could do on the side. And so really Mike started working with Legal Shield first before I did. In fact, when our friend approached Mike to work with Legal Shield, Mike had already taken up 2 other jobs. He was traveling all around, actually like doing installs for McDonald's and other fast food restaurants, their point of sale system. So he was like doing all the cabling and everything. So he was already gone 5 days a week from our family. And I was kind of mad at him that he decided also to work with Legal Shield, because I didn't think he had time for it.
Right.
So I just kind of patted him on the back and I said, honey, that'll be your thing. Little did I know that about 6 months after that, I called the law firm for the first time, something to do with one of our kids. Our son, Jordan, has high functioning autism, and he just started kindergarten, and they wanted to remove support services for him. And so I called the law firm for the first time just to find out, what are my rights as a parent? And the things that they told me were things that the school would have never told me, even though they would like give you this big, thick book of what your rights are as a parent if you have a kid in special education. And so they told me that they'll do testing, but if I didn't like how the testing turned out, the school had to pay for independent third-party testing. The school, had to re-review anything that we didn't like. We didn't have to sign anything in that meeting. So they gave me a lot of like really great advice. And so out of that, I realized what Mike was doing was a good thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even believe in it before that. And so about 6 months after that, I started working with him as well.
There's nothing like someone who is an advocate for what you're selling to provide just that level of authenticity that you can't.
Yeah.
You can't pretend that.
Yeah.
You really can't. So you having that experience with the actual service, then to go and say, oh, I like this so much.
Yeah.
I can be an advocate for it because that's.
Well, I realized that, other moms like me who didn't have any kind of advocacy, things would have turned out differently, I think, for Jordan if we didn't know how to handle that.
Well, that's powerful. And I have no idea the answer to this, but I think you're pretty high in the company, right? Like, how are you how are you in your little competitiveness? Like, you're winning trips and stuff. So that must mean that you rank pretty high up in the company in sales?
So my goal for this last year was to be top 10 in the company. And for most of the year, I was top 5. I ended up number 7. And so, but the competitiveness in me, as soon as I was top 5, I was like, maybe my goal is top 5. And
Right.
so then I felt a little disappointed when I ended up number 7. But
Well, it's like I said when we started this. It was, if you had asked me when we started, and I think I even thought when you first became a strategic partner, I was like, she can probably do okay, Actually, let's tell the people who introduced you to me in True Network. Who was the introducer?
well, one of the best people in True of all, Miss Hot Dog.
Miss Hot Dog. Let's give it up for Miss Hot Dog. Yeah. So Val introduced me to you guys because they were using your service. When was it? When did we first have a conversation?
Oh, 2019, probably. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'm guessing. I know it's pre-COVID for sure.
Yeah. So I met Val in 2018.
Right.
And so, you talk about me being competitive. So Mike and I devised this plan of how we would approach just about every business in Denver.
Right.
That fit within a certain scheme that we were looking for. So, this many employees, this type of industry, all of that kind of stuff. And so I walked into one of the employers that had an account with Intrepid.
Yeah, they were a client of Intrepid.
They were a client of Intrepid. And so the HR director really liked Legal Shield and ID Shield, but said, we have to pass this by our broker. And usually when that would happen, especially when I was working so direct with companies, that was usually the end of it.
Right.
Usually I wouldn't hear from that account again,
Right.
that HR director, things would just get dropped from there. But yeah, so that HR director, he really liked Legal Shield. And he was true to his word. He, brought it to Val, and Val gave me a call and said, I want to meet you. And so sat down.
And now you're sitting in Lake Guntersville, Alabama on Super TRUEper.
I know, yeah. It's amazing how
4
all that
years.
happened. It's funny. So before I ever had a call with you, so it was about doing benefits for Patriot. Do you remember this? So it was when they were starting to figure out which benefits Patriot would offer.
That would have been 2018.
Yep, 2018. So Val actually called me before that and said, okay, this is how you need to talk to Scott.
She would have known.
Yep. So
That's funny.
She was like, he's highly relational, don't sell him on the service, don't talk about product, he doesn't want to hear any of that.
Look at Miss Hot Dog telling somebody how to relate to me. Oh, the backstory.
She's cracked the code.
Well, obviously. So let's, we skipped over. We got to go now and talk about your boys.
Okay.
How old are your boys?
21 and 18. So James is 21, Jordan's 18.
So I met both of them. And actually, intern James did some video stuff for us.
Yeah.
One summer as an intern. It's kind of part of our lore now because he's on a few skits, and we just called him Intern James.
He was the original intern.
Yeah, the OG. Yeah, it really was. And then they both came to Oasis last year or year before last?
Year before.
Year before last.
Yeah, the Oasis that Jesse Itzler was at.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
And they loved him.
I remember Jordan saying, I learned more in school. I learned more than one day and I do in all of school.
He really did. Yeah, the notes that he came out of Oasis with, it was pretty amazing.
And they're both creatives. They're both in school.
Yeah.
In different, like James on the video side, and Jordan wants to be an actor. How is that? That's like, does that cause apprehension with mom, like going into like a squishy field?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, we want them to follow their dreams, and we want to be supportive of them. And so I think that they can really be successful if they really work hard.
Right.
And that's really what it's going to come down to is both of their industries, they can be in between jobs. And so they have to have another one lined up. And it's kind of, things that Mike and I have learned about. You have to have a full pipeline at all times. You can't just be, well, I have one job and I hope I get another one.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping that some of that is instilled in them. But yeah, want them to follow their dreams. But I think it's crazy. Like I thought I would have 2 athletic kids.
Right.
And then I ended up with like 2 kids that, like to video game or a little bit more indoors and, are creative but I love it.
Parenting is so hard. I've said this quote before, but parenting is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but only if you care about it. It's not very hard if you don't care about it, but if you care about it, it's the most painful, joyful, emotional roller coaster. Like Carson, my son Carson, he's, I don't know if you know this, over the past 4, 5, 6 weeks, he's gone and done 2 open mic nights on campus to do like 5-minute stand-up sets.
Wow.
I know.
That's brave.
I love it for a lot of reasons. Obviously, it takes courage to get up there and do it. That skill translates in a lot of ways. And he said recently something along the lines of, I'm just not sure I want a traditional corporate job. And I'm like, well, guess what? Nobody does. But there is this, I think, with so much access to information from our kids and really multiple generations now, I think they think more things are possible, which on one hand is fantastic. If Carson came to me and said, Dad, I'm going to be a stand-up, I would be like, okay, buddy, I'm going to support you 100%. And I'm going to be nervous for you. And I'm worried.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the wrong things and say the wrong things. I'm always going to support you. But you understand how that would make a dad nervous.
Yeah.
But I'm going to support you. Those are it's hard to like support them, yet be like, I hope that you don't like try it forever and then you're homeless and, I'm being silly, but it's hard.
Yeah. But they can always do it on the side to, have another means of income, I think. And
what you could also do? You could run away to Fort Worth, Texas when you're 19, be in a band, get married, have 3 kids.
This sounds personal.
Accidentally have two other kids, and then have a great career.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that can happen, huh?
That's
is that
Britt's like, who's this person? Sounds like a mop story.
Is that the formula, Britt Burns?
That is Britt's story.
Is that what I should tell James?
I would say, Britt, none of us want to say, if your kids were like, I'm going to live your story, would you want your kids to live your story? No, none of us would, really.
A bunch of risks, and they all happen to work out.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Well, and on like James's side too, he's actually been through a lot of chronic illnesses and things like that. And so he's already kind of had an uphill battle in life. And so I really do think that if it's something he wants to do, he'll make it. And so
I was being a little funny in that if your kids happen to listen to this, I'm going to be speaking to them right now.
I'm sure that they will. Yeah.
You should absolutely go all in when you're young on what if you have a passion and a dream, now is the time to do it. Yeah. No responsibilities. Go do it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it, like really go do it. With the discipline. It's like if someone is trying to be a professional athlete, they have to practice and practice and practice. And I think sometimes when you get into a squishy creative endeavor, there's a tendency to be like, well, I'll work a little bit at it. But no, the people that were great really work at their craft. So,
Yeah.
and you don't really have to go to school anymore. I
Yeah.
know I don't even think it's controversial to say anymore.
Yeah.
You learn whatever you want to go bust down some doors. Anyway, that was for you boys. That was a message for the Rogers kids.
I'll make sure they get it.
We're winding down. I told you the hour would go fast, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What did I miss? Anything else you want to talk about? I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I didn't cover like what you did for work before the nonprofit that got you there.
Yeah.
Talked about your competitiveness. I probably could go more into that. And you know what we don't have? We don't have cups to do cheers with. I always end this with a cheers. I went to Moody Brews and there was a line at the door. And so we don't get to cheers. That's the beep that's saying it's an hour.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. We now know to mute that.
You get a real reaction to that.
Well, nice to see you.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know that beep.
Paint figure who just flew.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Is there anything else that you usually ask or wanted to ask me?
You about the moment your eyes matched. I'm trying to think if there's anything. No, guess what? We could do round 2. We could have you and Mike together. We could actually bring the boys in.
Yeah.
We could do like a Rogers. So the Jansons, who you know very well.
Yeah.
From 212.
Love the Jansons.
Eric has not visited yet,
Uh-huh.
but the Jansons are bringing their girls up again for the 4th of July week. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Because they really love Brits kids. Are you going to have the? Will there be another parade?
Yeah, it's the 4th of July parade.
Man, that's just so precious. They have this little neighborhood parade, and the kids just the Jansen girls had to just like think I'm in Nirvana.
Yeah.
We're going.
My little town has a parade too, and so it's probably just about as big as the whole troop of Brits kids.
Right. I think we've had a good time. Mindy Rogers. I didn't talk about Mike a lot, but
Well,
it's okay if husbands get left out sometimes.
Aw.
But the reason I didn't though is because I'm going to get him on to do the same
yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Because we love Mike.
He actually really misses working with all you guys.
Well,
so.
and we do as well. But you guys are a healthy couple. You're back together.
Yeah.
Reunited.
It feels so good. Yeah.
Is that Peaches and Cream? Did I get that right? Is Reunited Peaches and Cream? Peaches and Herb?
Oh, thank you.
Urban Cream? Oh, we should have a band called Urban Cream. Reunited, the song. We're going to find this out before we go.
Okay.
Just because I really want Britt to like
Peaches and herb.
Peaches and
Oh.
Herb.
Okay. You were close.
I said that's that second.
Yeah.
I think I said Peaches and Cream and then Peaches and Herb. Is his name Herb? I wonder if his name's Herb.
Herb.
All right, we're being silly. So this is where I get serious for a second.
Okay. Go ahead.
You've been such a cool person to be around. Like your energy at the True events, and your enthusiasm, your smile, the way you treat people. You do what you say you're going to do every single time. How many true agencies have you visited now? You don't
Wish I knew that you were going to ask me. Probably 20 to 25.
That's crazy talk.
Quite a few.
When anybody, I need to do this. I need to remember this. When anybody asks me, like, what does it mean to be a good strategic partner? I'll say things like their commitment or engagement. But I think I need to give you as a specific example. Like, if you have a good product and you position it well and you're relationship driven, you're focused, you want to help people, and you want to do things like you're doing, it's hard not to be successful. You just kind of knocked the door down, kicked it. So kudos to you for being such a cool person.
Well, and I think I'm having more fun than I ever have. Just being with everybody in True. I mean, you heard my college story. I was not a wild and crazy, stay up late person in college or anything like that. And so I think that the people in True are so fun and genuine. Like they really want to get to know you. And, when we have late night conversations, they get on a very serious level and people care. And, even when I go visit agencies, a lot of the agency owners have me over to their house and walk me around and tell me their stories. And there's just that level of authenticity that I don't think that you find anywhere else. And so I just really appreciate that about True.
Well, you add to it. You make it happen. All right, we're going to fake cheers.
Okay. All right. Here.
Oh. True love.
All right.
See ya.